Is Costa Rica still safe? Let's talk about that in today's video. And this story gets a lot of help from QCostaRica.com, a phenomenal blog if you haven't checked it out, run by a man named Rico who covers Costa Rica better than anyone. I read it weekly, if not daily. Now, going into this question, it wanted to be answered correctly and objectively. So he got help from Christopher Howard, who I met a few times at the Fiesta Casino near the airport. We used to watch football there on Sundays, and Christopher used to hang out there. So if you're still there, Christopher, if you're still around, obviously you're still around. I'm wishing you the best. Hope all is well. Don't know if you remember me, but that was many moons ago, Mr. Howard. Hope everything is well, and there's nobody better than him to talk about Costa Rica. He's the absolute guru on retiring to Costa Rica and has written many books, best-selling books at that, on the topic. He also did relocation tours, if I remember right, many years back, and there's nobody better to tell you about the country than him, living there over 33 years, has a ton of experience, and my personal and professional opinion is that he is spot on with this. So in today's video, I'm summarizing his words that were spoken on Q Costa Rica, and this is his take. And at the end of the video, I'll go into my thoughts as well on the topic of, is Costa Rica still safe? So Christopher says, during the 40 plus years that I've lived in Costa Rica, it's been branded and to some extent labeled as a tropical paradise. Even the national motto, Pura Vida, reinforces this label. This is because the country has always been known for its unparalleled natural beauty, pristine beaches, towering mountains, spectacular vistas, and exotically abundant flora and fauna. I could not have said that better. Great words there. And yes, Costa Rica does offer a quality of life superior to most countries. There are more American residents living here per capita than any other country in the world. I was one of them. I don't live there now. I'm a frequent visitor. Love to go back one day. Now, indeed, they all can't be wrong, he says. There really has been nothing negative about the country in the international media due to its squeaky clean image and impeccable reputation. That's all true. Costa Rica is very high rated. I just talked about how it's the #1 place to retire in 2024 in my last video, so check that out and subscribe. Now, unfortunately, he says, Costa Rica has been in the news lately for all the wrong reasons. The international media has become fixated on comparing the country's formerly unblemished image that is now slightly tarnished because of increased turf wars between local drug gangs and the resultant rise in homicides among said groups. Now, these gangs are paid with drugs instead of money by the larger Mexican and Colombian drug cartels. All of the drugs that make their way to the country and that are consumed here come from Colombia. Due to its geographical location, Costa Rica is obviously a natural transit point from which drugs are shipped easily to North America, Europe, or other foreign destinations. No North Americans or Europeans have adversely been affected by the local gangs despite the alarmist rhetoric decimated by the media. So don't believe everything you read. He's telling you what's going on the ground here. These gangs are fighting amongst themselves. Out of the 908 murders this past year, 598 have been due to the rivalry between the local criminal groups, which are fueled by the influence of the Mexican and Colombian cartels. He goes on to say, one only has to look at Mexico's and Colombia's violent past to see the situation in its proper light. In Mexico, during the last decade or so, over 200 reporters have been murdered in cold blood for trying to expose the drug gangs. This has never occurred in Costa Rica. The cartels and drug trade fuel rampant corruption and violence in Mexico, which contributes to tens of thousands of homicides in the country every single year. Thousands of Mexicans, including politicians, students, and even journalists, die in the conflict every single year. The country has seen more than 360,000 homicides since 2006, when the government declared war on the cartels. Once again, previously unheard of here. Despite this rampant violence, surprisingly, Mexico is the top foreign destination for U.S. travelers, and 1.6 million U.S. citizens actually do live in Mexico, and who are not deterred by that violent situation. Now let's take a look on the other side of the coin, and that is Colombia. Unfortunately, as we probably know, Colombia has been at war with itself for over 70 years. Over 200,000 citizens died due to political violence, called appropriately la violencia, between 1950 and 1960 after a liberal presidential candidate was assassinated. From 1960 to present day, different guerrilla groups, including drug cartels and paramilitary groups, have been responsible for hundreds of thousands more deaths. I mean, it's just astronomical. You've probably seen it in the news. I don't follow it as much anymore, but it's happened, especially in the 90s. Many more Colombians have been displaced from their homes, especially in rural areas. Colombia has one of the largest internally displaced populations in the world, standing at 6.8 million at the end of 2022, with over 1 million new displacements since the signing of the ineffectual peace agreement in 2016. In the 1990s, the city of Medellin had a homicide rate of over 400 people per 100,000 residents, making it the most violent city in the world. I'm sure you guys remember those times. The drug trade and maladies are still plaguing that country. While it's gotten a lot better, they're still there. Extortion, kidnapping, being the largest cocaine exporter in the world. Murder by hitmen riding on motorcycles, which are called sicarios in Spanish. And the usurious practice of loan sharking. This often brings with it penalty of death when the borrower fails to pay on time. It's just what happens. And the arbitrary charging of tolls to enter some neighborhoods are still widespread in Colombia. Again, be very careful if you're traveling there. Keep your head on a swivel. Unfortunately, small-time criminal groups in Costa Rica have become adopting the Colombian practices of drug smuggling and sales, and to a smaller extent, loan sharking and fighting to control drug routes and territories. Not a good thing. All of this was never a problem in the past in Costa Rica, and this is all Howard's words again. He lives there. He's on the ground. Costa Rica has always been known as a peaceful country that abolished its military at the end of the 1940s. The innumerable bloodbaths, mass killings, and violence that occurred in Mexico and Colombia never happened in Costa Rica. They just didn't. It does not happen in Costa Rica. But tragically, there have been a few deaths here in Costa Rica due to collateral damage in poorer Costa Rican neighborhoods. Now, I will say poorer Costa Rican neighborhoods is pretty spot on. Incidentally, there's never been an indiscriminate mass shooting in Costa Rica like those occur almost every single month here in the United States. He said week, I'm going to go month. They're not that rampant, but hey, it's disgusting no matter which way you look at it. Gun laws are very strict in Costa Rica. Legal foreign residents and Costa Ricans may possess only 2 handguns, but only after taking a psychological test and extensive criminal background check. Furthermore, civilians may not own military weapons like AK-47s. Christopher Howard ends this saying, in short, he would not live there if he felt the country was just too dangerous. Tourists and potential retirees should feel the same way, taking into account the information and facts mentioned in this content. Okay, end quote. I've summarized everything he said. What do I think about this? Yes, Costa Rica has become increasingly more dangerous over the years. However, I go yearly, sometimes more than once, twice, 3 times a year, and I like to visit the zones that are tourist zones. Gone are the days when I would run around roughshod in San Jose, Costa Rica. Those are just dangerous days, dangerous times. You do not want to get caught up on the wrong turf and do the wrong thing. Yes, there's safe places. The Gringo Gulch used to be very fun. I don't know what it's like anymore. I don't go down there anymore. But I've heard it's kind of a dead zone right now with the Horseshoe Casino closing, the Hotel Del Rey being totally different, closing for a while, opening back up, not having the same success, and people now going to Jaco for that kind of pleasure, right? The nightlife stuff. I won't even get into that right now. But a lot of it's changed. A lot of it's cleaned up, but a lot of it remains pretty impoverished. San Jose is not a pretty town. There's a lot of cool things there, a lot of culture, a lot of things to see, places to go, places to eat. Shout out to Ellen Cora and Tony, my favorite restaurant down there. A lot of good stuff, a lot of memories down there. But when I travel there, I go to the nice resorts, usually in Guanacaste or even South Manuel Antonio. Quepos as well has some beautiful ones too. But if you're going somewhere like the Four Seasons, the W, the Westin, El Mangrove, and Playa Panama, places that we frequent that are near Liberia Airport, you're going to be okay. That stuff does not happen up there at the scale it does in San Jose. San Jose is the dangerous area. Guanacaste and outside of that are pretty safe. Always keep your head on a swivel. Of course, be careful in Costa Rica. That stuff will spread. There's been violence in Tamarindo because, again, people that are flashy and stupid in Costa Rica, which is something you do not want to do, are targets. They are marks. Do not wear a flashy watch. Do not do business with people. Don't be buying drugs from people you don't know. It's all common sense, you guys. Costa Rica, as Christopher Howard expertly said, is still safe, and I think that he had a great synopsis of everything he said on Q Costa Rica. Again, follow allworld.com. I give you advice on travel, especially Costa Rica, somewhere very near and dear to me. Follow qcostarica.com. Go to their website. It's fantastic. Rico does a great job. Christopher Howard, check him out if you're looking to retire in Costa Rica. I gave a lot of shout outs in this video, but they were very well earned. So shout out to those guys. Thanks for the content ideas today, and be safe.